He said it slowly, like it was a fact, not an insult. To the caretakers in the room, he paused, eyes grazing over me like I was a dust speck. You made Mom's final years comfortable. Thank you. You were more staff than sister by the end. Laughter. A few muffled chuckles. Someone shifted in a velvet chair. No one looked directly at me. My name is Celeste Kincaid, and the man rewriting my place in our mother's life was my brother, Grant. He wore grief like an expensive suit. Tailored, practiced, pressed. But it didn't fit. 12 years ago, I came back to Briar Hollow with a duffel bag and a promise. Now I was the one being written out. He didn't know what I knew, what I'd found, and what it would cost him by the time the ink dried. The lawyer adjusted his glasses, his voice flat. Per the terms of Elaine Kincaid's estate, the heir seemed to thin. The primary property shall transfer to Mr. Grant Kincaid in full. Grant smiled faintly, leaned back. Of course, he said. That's what Mom wanted. Her home, her legacy. Family stays with family. I didn't move. I didn't blink. Because tucked inside my coat pocket was a handwritten letter. And the truth it carried had already begun to shake the floorboards of this old house. The will reading took place in the parlor. Mom's parlor. Glass-fronted cabinets, lined with dusty porcelain. Gold-embossed teacups no one had touched in years. A clock that chimed every 15 minutes, whether time wanted to pass or not. I sat at the far end of the leather couch, my hands folded in my lap. In the corner, the fireplace crackled softly, the kind of soft crackle that reminds you how many winters passed without repair. 12 winters. 12 Christmases. 12 years of sponge baths, oxygen machines, and fighting Medicare over oxygen refills. And now Grant sat near the fire like a guest of honor, in a house he hadn't visited for 5 Thanksgivings in a row. When the lawyer finished reading, the room settled into an odd hush. Not silence, just the kind of weighted quiet where everyone waits to see if someone will cry, or scream, or protest. I did none of those things. I stood up calmly, walked to the hallway, and opened the linen closet. Behind a stack of old flannel sheets, I found it. The brown leather folder. Mom's real will. Her handwriting in blue ink, initials at every corner. She'd made me promise not to look at it until the day came. I hadn't. Not until the night before the funeral. The next morning, I made coffee like I had every day for the past decade. Even though she was gone. Even though the kitchen felt too clean. Too empty. The house groaned in that familiar way it always had after a snowfall. Wood settling. Pipes complaining. I set her favorite mug on the table. Hello, Mom. Grief is strange. It makes you do things like that. I sat down, pulled the folder toward me. The letter was addressed to me in her shaky cursive. Celeste, if you're reading this, I'm gone. And I know how Grant will be. You always said he could charm a snake into skipping its strike. But houses remember. You remember. This is your home. I trust you to do what's right. Mom. Attached to the letter was the amended will. Dated 7 months ago. Witnessed by a neighbor and notarized at Briar Hollow Bank. The house was mine. But Grant wasn't the kind to give up something he thought he already owned. When I told him about the letter, his eyes narrowed. That's cute, he said. Forged? Or just desperate? It's real, I replied. Mom signed it. You can ask Grace at the bank. He stepped forward, voice tight. You think you can take this from me after I paid the taxes for 5 years? You paid for taxes on a house you never visited. Because you lived here rent-free. I changed her bedpans. He flinched. Let's not get dramatic, Celeste. But drama was coming. Not from me. From a small envelope sitting in the nightstand drawer. A photograph. A check. And one line written in my mother's hand. For when he tries to erase you. The photo was old. Grant, sitting at Mom's kitchen table, a beer in hand, flipping through mortgage papers. The check was for $15,000. Made out to him. Labeled buyout. She'd paid him to leave. He never expected her to keep the receipt. Now I had it. And soon, so would the probate judge. At the funeral, the church pews were packed. Grant stood at the pulpit and spoke of Mom like he'd been there all along. He used words like grace, strength, and legacy. He didn't mention the month she'd called him, crying, asking why he hadn't come at Christmas. He didn't mention that she died while he was in Puerto Rico. Afterward, mourners shook my hand gently. "You were so good to her," one said. "You sacrificed so much," whispered another. But their eyes said something else. Like maybe they believed Grant's version too. That I had just stayed behind out of failure. Not out of love. That night, I sat at the kitchen table, the amended will in front of me. I highlighted every signature, every notarized stamp, and then I made a copy. 2, in fact. One went to my lawyer. The other went into a white envelope, addressed to the same man who just thanked me for my caretaking. "Dear Grant," I wrote, "if I was just the maid, then why did Mom leave me the deed?" The envelope arrived 2 days later, stamped from a corporate law firm uptown. Inside, a cease and desist notice. My brother's handwriting in the margin. "Stop pretending. You'll embarrass yourself." Below that, a second note in typed print. "Any further attempts to claim property ownership will be met with legal response." He'd hired someone. He was scared, which meant I was close. I made tea that night, sat by the window, and watched the snow pile gently on the porch railing. Mom used to sit in that exact spot, tracing fog on the glass with her fingertip. "I want peace in this house when I'm gone," she once whispered. "You will," I said. I just didn't know peace would take this much precision. I went to the bank the next morning. Grace, the notary, wore the same lavender sweater she always had. Her eyes softened when she saw the folder. "She made you promise not to open it early, didn't she?" I nodded. "She said it would protect you." She pulled up the notary record. Date, time, initials. Grant's name was nowhere near it. "She said her son had stopped calling," Grace added. "Said you were the one who stayed." I asked for a certified copy. She gave me 2. Then she handed me something unexpected. "Your mom left this at the counter the day she filed the amended will," she said. "Said it was a note. Told me to give it to you when it mattered." It was a yellow post-it. Mom's handwriting again. "He'll try to scare you. You were always braver than he was." Back home, I opened the safe in the back of the hall closet. The hinges squeaked. Inside was a manila envelope labeled in marker, "Legal, Grant." I had forgotten about it. Mom had put it there the year he took out a second mortgage on her car, forged her name, and blamed it on identity theft. She never pressed charges. But she kept the file. Inside, police report, voicemail transcription, scanned copies of checks he wrote against her account. She had circled one line in red ink. "I won't call the cops. But you're done here." He wasn't just negligent. He was a thief. That night, I emailed my lawyer. Attached everything. "Tell me how strong this is," I wrote. He called an hour later. "Celeste," he said, "you're sitting on a time bomb. If you wanted to fight this publicly, you could bury him." I didn't want that. But I wasn't going to be buried, either. 2 days later, I attended a brunch Grant was hosting for close friends of the Kincaid family. The invitation had not included me, but I walked in anyway. The brunch was held at the golf club. Silverware clinking. Bloody Marys sweating in tall glasses. Grant stood at the center of a circle, laughing too loudly. He wore one of Dad's old watches. A Rolex Mom said he'd pawned years ago. His eyes flicked toward me. Then he smiled. "Sister dearest, I was wondering when you'd show up." I had to make sure the flowers looked right, I said, my tone mild. He lowered his voice. "This isn't your scene, Celeste. You mean the kind where people toast the inheritance before the estate settles?" He didn't respond. So I pulled the yellow post-it from my pocket, placed it face up on the table between us. "You remember Mom's handwriting?" He went pale. I left before dessert. At home, I opened Mom's sewing desk. The drawer where she kept little things. Needles, buttons, receipts, and a spiral notebook. Inside, for years of notes. What she ate, when she couldn't sleep, when Grant didn't call for her birthday. And this, January 14th. He said I was being dramatic about the mortgage. Celeste brought groceries again. She always notices when I'm running low. March 2nd. Grant wants me to sell the house. Says it's too much work. Celeste says it keeps me alive. I believe her. August 9th. I changed the will today. Told Celeste she'd understand what to do. She always does. I sat with the notebook open in my lap, the late afternoon light slipping through the blinds. The house groaned again, as if it remembered too. Houses do. Later that evening, I drafted a letter. Simple.
Calm.
Final. Grant. Attached is a certified copy of Mom's amended will. Also included is the bank's notarized witness log, the police report, and a log of your 2014 loan fraud. If you pursue litigation, all of this becomes public. I am not trying to humiliate you. I am trying to honor the truth. The house stays. You do not. Celeste. I sent it by courier the next morning. He would receive it by lunch. At 2:34 p.m., my phone buzzed. A single text. You win. I put the phone down. Win wasn't the word, but it was a start. That night, I went to the basement and opened a dusty crate marked Dad. Inside, his old tools. Blueprints. The deed to the house from 1981. Mom had tucked a note inside. The house's bones. It stood through 4 storms. It will stand through this. I sat there for a long time, ran my fingers along the wooden beam. The grain soft and splintered from time. Upstairs, I could hear the wind pick up, but the walls didn't creak. They held. 3 days later, the story broke. Not in some explosive headline, not in a courtroom, but in a quiet column on the back page of the Briar Hollow Weekly. Longtime caregiver fights to uphold final wishes in local inheritance dispute. No names. No drama. Just a photo of the house. And a closing quote from a source close to the family. The daughter remained. That's all people need to know. Grant called me that night. You leaked this. No, I said. But I didn't stop it. He was silent. Then, you're really doing this, aren't you? I already did it.
Click.
The silence after he hung up felt louder than his voice ever did. By the next morning, someone had left a bouquet of lilies on the porch. No note. I knew who it was. Not Grant. He wouldn't use lilies. He didn't know they were Mom's favorite. It was Mrs. Anders from next door. She'd been Mom's friend long before either of us had wrinkles. She came over later with a tin of lemon bars, pressed my hand without saying much, then whispered, "We all saw what you did. Some of us just weren't brave enough to say it sooner." That afternoon, I got a letter from the estate attorney.
Short.
Formal. Legalese. But it said what mattered. Given the evidence presented, the court has honored the amended version of the will. The Kincaid property now legally belongs to Ms. Celeste Kincaid. Underneath, his handwritten note. You kept the records. The records kept the truth. But records don't protect you from grief. They just keep you from being erased. And for the first time in weeks, I cried. Not because I'd won, but because Mom wouldn't ever walk into that kitchen again. Wouldn't leave half a banana in the fridge. Wouldn't fold laundry with that humming voice of hers. Wouldn't call me from the hallway just to say, "You're too quiet today." Grief is never about what's gone. It's about what stays and echoes. I kept the house quiet after that. Didn't post. Didn't reply to calls. Didn't throw out the hospice cot in the back room. Until Grant showed up again. Uninvited. It was a Sunday. Cold. The kind of cold that sharpens your lungs when you breathe. He knocked twice. I opened the door. He didn't smile. He held a manila envelope, same kind I used to send him the documents. "This is yours," he said. Held it out like it weighed something. I opened it. Inside, a photograph. Us. Small. Children. Hugging Mom at the edge of a county fair. She looked tired. We looked happy. On the back, his handwriting. I don't remember this day. But you do. That matters. I looked up. He shifted his weight. "Did you ever think about how she made it look easy?" he asked. I waited. "She made it look easy to love you more." I didn't respond, because it wasn't true. She just made it easier for him to leave. He stepped back onto the porch. "I'm selling Dad's car," he said. It's yours now. I didn't say thank you.
And he didn't wait for me to.
The door clicked shut behind him like punctuation. Final. Not cruel.
Just done.
I spent that week cleaning the study. Found Mom's old calendar. She had circled every appointment I'd taken her to, even the minor ones. Celeste, dentist, held my hand. Celeste, flu shot, told the nurse not to rush. Celeste, CVS, remembered my cough syrup. 12 years of small lines. 12 years of invisible love. And now they weren't invisible anymore. I finally opened the attic. It had been years. The air smelled like dust and mothballs. But there was light. And something else. A metal box. Inside, a stack of letters. Written to me. Unsent. Celeste, I know what I'm asking of you. I'm sorry I didn't ask him instead. But I know you'll stay. Celeste, your soup is better than mine. I just pretend it's not. Thank you for pretending with me. Celeste, you won't regret this. I know it feels like sacrifice now, but I see you. Every day. I see you. I sat on the attic floor until the cold crept through my jeans, until the light faded, until grief turned to something else. Maybe peace. Maybe restoration. Maybe a kind of justice only daughters understand. Spring came early that year. Soft rain. Moss spreading across the brick path to the front porch. The kind of warmth that makes grief feel quieter. I kept the curtains open most days. Let the sun pour into the rooms Mom never got to see in bloom again. The hydrangeas returned first. Blue, then almost violet. Just like she liked them. They'd survived the frost. Like the house. Like me. A month after the court settled the estate, I received a letter. No return address.
Inside, a check.
$3,700. And a note. Back pay. For groceries. For hospital drives. For the 12 birthdays I missed. It wasn't enough. Not close. But it was the first time he put anything in writing that resembled regret. I didn't cash it. I placed it in Mom's recipe book, between her banana bread and her Sunday chicken soup. She'd know where to find it. The town started calling again. The pastor. The community center. Even the library. People wanted to donate in Mom's name. Start a scholarship. Create a memory bench at the park. I didn't say yes right away. I wasn't sure if she'd want attention. She was never the kind to want credit. But then I remembered something she told me once, years ago, in the middle of a bad night when the pain meds weren't enough. I just don't want to disappear when I go. So I said yes. The bench was built 2 weeks later. Walnut wood. Iron armrests. Set beneath the big oak at Ridgefield Park. A small plaque read, Elaine Kincaid. She stayed.
She saw.
She softened the edges. One afternoon, I sat there for almost an hour, letting the wind move through my sleeves, across the grass, carrying the kind of silence that feels sacred. And that's where Grant found me. I didn't hear him approach. He sat without asking.
No suit. No envelope.
Just jeans. And that old flannel Mom used to make him wear when he was sick. He didn't say hello, just looked at the plaque. Then the tree. Then me. I sold the condo, he said. Good, I replied. I didn't need the space, he added. You never did. A pause.
Long.
But not angry. Then, I saw the scholarship article, he said. She'd hate the photo they used. She'd hate that they made it about legacy, I said. She thought folding laundry was legacy enough. He smiled. A real one this time. Tired, but real. We sat there for a long while. Then he reached into his jacket, pulled out a sealed envelope. She wrote this the same day she changed the will, he said. I found it in her Bible. It's for you. My hand shook slightly as I opened it. Celeste, if this letter finds you, it means you fought for something bigger than comfort. I'm sorry I left you with the hard part, but I knew you were the one who wouldn't let the truth rot in the walls of this house. I loved you both, but only one of you stayed. And staying, quietly, without reward, is what holds a family together. I hope Grant learns that before it's too late. I folded the letter slowly, placed it in my pocket like I'd done with so many others. then turned toward my brother.
It's not too late, I said.
He nodded,
Didn't speak.
just stood and walked away. Didn't look back.
Didn't need to.
Some things repair themselves in motion. That night, I opened the window in Mom's room. Let the night air in. Let the shadows stretch across the walls she painted in lilac. I sat on her old chair, ran my fingers over the armrest she'd worn smooth, and I said the thing I hadn't said out loud yet. It's okay to go now. Because she'd been staying. In the house. In the walls. In the papers. In the echoes. But now, finally she could rest. And I could rebuild. The following week, I had the locks changed. Not because I feared Grant, but because a new chapter deserves a new key. I donated half her clothes to the shelter. Kept the scarves. Kept the one sweater she always wore on rainy days. I started teaching again. Adult education, 3 nights a week at the community center. Basic architecture. Space planning. The kind of practical design Mom would have loved. One night after class, a woman said, "You look familiar. Did your mother used to volunteer at Ridgefield?" I smiled.
She did.
Now she rests under the oak. 1 year later, I hosted a remembrance dinner. Small group. Only those who'd truly shown up. Mrs. Anders brought lemon bars. The pastor brought lilies. And Grant? He brought his daughter. Her name was Elaine. She had my mother's eyes. Before he left, he handed me a slip of paper. "You can't change the foundation you were given," it said. "But you can decide what you build on top of it." He'd written it himself. I could tell. The lines weren't Mom's. They were his. Finally, later that night, I stood on the front porch. Glass of wine in hand. The wind soft. The house still. Inside, Mom's bench calendar was turned to April. I never changed it. She had written, "First day of real warmth." Celeste opened the windows. The house breathed again. I whispered, "So did I." Then I turned the porch light off and stepped back inside.